So this is a June exam, a June examination from the Abattoir East District, which is the Eastern Cape. And we are seeing that this question paper is from May 2024. It's a task two control test. So we are going to go through this question paper. So all the instructions and information, the paper consists of three sections, namely section A, section B, and section C. And the questions in section A are and section B are compulsory. Very important that we take note that we have to answer all questions in section A and section B. And then in section number three, answer any two questions in section C. Very important to take note. In section C is optional. We have to choose two questions according to this question paper. And of course, we have to read all the questions carefully. So in terms of the first question that we have, it's going to start on multiple choice, whereby the first question is which of the following is an example of an environmental issue. So basically, when they're looking at an environmental issue, is basically a disruption in the usual functioning of the ecosystem. So you'd see that environmental issues, these issues can be caused by humans or they can be natural. So the issues are considered serious when the ecosystem cannot recover in the present situation. And that is the environmental issue. So according to responses that we are given, we'd see that the most appropriate that we have that disrupt the ecosystem is a depletion of natural resources. We have A, as the appropriate response. And then we move on to question two. Which of the following are absolutely necessary in the restoration of a broken relationship? So you'd say that you're given aggression, betrayal, communication, understanding. But in terms of restoration of the broken relationship, you'd see that the most appropriate that we have is a communication. Remember, communication explains the interaction that exists between two parties. So whenever interaction is enhanced, it's going to facilitate the making up of that relationship. So we have C as the correct response. So number three, the rule of law means that the country will be governed by. So we see that the rule of law is related to the constitution, and it means all actions and decisions need to be made in accordance with the law. So according to responses that we have, you would say that D is the most appropriate, which is the constitution and the laws of the country. So we have D as the correct response. Then we go to number four. The following is not a good practice when answering questions in the exam. Remember, the question is saying not a good practice. So you'd say that structure your answers is necessary. Keep track of time is necessary. Make sure you understand the question is necessary. But read the question once. Don't have to read the question once. You can read as many times as it is going to make you understand the question. So we have a D as the correct response. Then we go to number five. Number five reads, when deciding on a career, one should consider the following. We have got this one responses that we have. We've got A, we have got B, C, D. So from the responses that we have, the correct response that we have is personal employment opportunities and personal interest. It's very important to go to 1.2. Give one word or term for each of the following descriptions. Write only the word or term next to the question numbers, question 1 to 5. An activity that you do before you start to do physical exercise. So you're going to see that this is warm up. So warm up becomes the correct response according to question 1.2.1. So we are saying warm up is the correct response. Then we move on to the next question. Visiting a workplace for a certain period of time to observe and to take part in daily work activities in order to gain experience or insight into a career. So this is job shadowing. So we are saying job shadowing is the correct response. And we move on to the next part. Investigates or complaints about how the government officials are doing their duties. So we'd see that the one that is responsible for investigating complaints about how the government officials are doing their duties is the public prosecutor. So we have got public prosecutor is the uh, correct response, which is the public protector. So we have public protector is the correct response, which is 1.2.3. And then we go to the next one, which is going to be our question 1.2.4. How hard you need to exercise to improve your cardiovascular endurance? I would say that the level that you need to exercise to improve your cardiovascular endurance. it would say that the correct response is intensity. So we have to intensely uh, exercise to improve your cardiovascular endurance. So we are saying intensely is the correct response. So we have got our correct response is intensity. Then move on to the next part, which is now a written document that people sign to show that they want a person or organization to do or change something. So this is a petition. So we have a petition as the correct response. So this is what we have according to uh, our question 1.2. Then we move on to the next question, which is 1.3. Answer the following questions by writing the answer next to question numbers. So we've got question 1 to 4. First one, provide 3 safety measures which you should consider to ensure that you stay safe when playing games. So in terms of safety measures, obviously, you need the apparatus that you are supposed to be used to be correct to avoid hitting yourself. That is very important. And also, being updated first. Obviously, you should be updated about the kit to use in case of emergency. So very important also in terms of considering it in terms of the safety measures that you have to take into account. So the first safety measure is wear appropriate clothing for the activity to avoid injuries and disturbances. And then warming up before the activity and cooling down after the activity to avoid injuries. Using apparatus correctly to avoid hurting yourself and participating good behavior like listening attentively to instructions to avoid hurting yourself and others. So these are some of the safety measures which you should consider to ensure that you stay safe when playing games. So we move on to the next part, which is going to be our number 2. Discuss how goal setting skills could assist high school learners to achieve the required marks in an assessment. How goal setting skills could assist high school learners to achieve the required marks in an assessment. So you are going to see that uh, they should have specific marks to focus on, which keeps them motivated so that they can achieve those marks. And also, they should avail time for practice until hidden aspects of their academic work is revealed. They are very important. So these are some of the points that you can consider in question 2. So we have them also articulated in our answer section. So we are saying have specific marks to focus on which keeps them motivated so that they can achieve those marks and assess their progress towards their target marks, which could allow them to make adjustments as they go so that they reach their goal. So we have got other points that we can also consider according to the question. So we move on to the next part, which reads advise grade 11 visual learners on a study strategy that could help them retain information for a content heavy subject. So you have to advise grade 11 learners on a study strategy that could help them retain information for a content heavy subject. So a content heavy subject basically is a subject that is going to include a lot of information. So what is the strategy that can be employed? So they can use colors instead of notes, which would then draw their eyes to the key information instead of the raw text. So the colors, obviously, they are going to point out areas to take note. So which is very important. So we have that also articulated in another section whereby we are saying on the question 1.3.3, make use of mind maps, which would organize and group the information in a way that would make it easier for their mind to remember. So that can be the first point that you can include. Use colors instead of notes, which would then draw their eyes to the key information instead of the whole text. Incorporate pictures into their notes, which represent different parts of the information so that they can visualize these pictures when they try to recall the specific information. This is what we have on 1.3.3. Then we move on to the next part, which is now 1.3.4. Why is it good to avoid performance drugs? Why is it good to avoid performance drugs? Drugs, basically, I would say that drugs may lead to disqualification in participating in professional sports, which is something that should be avoided. So, very important uh, to avoid performance drugs. as due to the negative effects that we've just seen. So we are saying, in terms of our other section, what the responses that we have reads and drugs have many harmful side effects which may cause some illnesses within one's body. So that's the reason why we should avoid performance drugs. And also, drugs may lead to disqualification in participating in professional sports. So this is what we have, and this last question that we have on question one. And obviously, we need to move on to the second question, which is going to be our question two. So on our question two, you are given a case study. I read the case study below in that question that follows. So we are given a case study how climate change threatens Africa's food security. So this is the information that you have to go through. Then beneath that, 2.1 mentioned four effects of climate change that influence food production in Africa. So you're going to see that climate change obviously has a negative effect on food production, as you are going to see less of the products are being produced, which is going to affect access to food for the citizens. So that is one of the negative effects that we can deduce. And also, the farmers also are going to experience crop failure. That is can be also an effect that we can deduce. So we have got those effects mentioned in another section, whereby you're saying the first effect is that people will have less access to food, health of people will decline, people will suffer financial difficulties, farming land will be lost, there will be breakout of pests. So these are some of the points that we've got a further points that are also correct that we can also consider. And then we'll move on to the next part of our question, which is 2.2. Discuss how farming land can be lost due to climate change. So how can a farming land be lost due to climate change is our next question. So you see that when there is a climate change, obviously we are going to notice some negative effects like the issue of no rain taking place due to climate change. So the land could be too dry for agricultural purposes. If that happens, agricultural yields are affected. So basically, that's what we see. If the land is dry, it means we are not going to use it for farming, this is how our land can be lost. So this is what we have. So we move on to see what we have in terms of our other section. So we are saying on the first point, the climate change resulted in floods, arable land rich with needed agricultural nutrients is washed away, leading to the scarcity of food in the market. So that's the first point. Second point, when there is no rain due to climate change, the land could be too dry for agricultural purposes. If that happens, agricultural yields are affected, and there will be less food in the market. And then third point, continued drought may deplete the groundwater levels, making it difficult for farmers to access this valuable resource, even through bore. So these are some of the points that you can include on 2.2. So moving on, you see that we also have a continuation in terms of the point that you can also consider on that. Then we move on to the next part of our question, which is going to be 2.3. So on 2.3, it reads, illustrated three ways how conditions caused by climate change may affect people's way of living. So you'll see that illustrating three ways how conditions are caused by climate change may affect people's way of living. So obviously, we are going to see that there are going to be negative effects in the way of living, as we are going to see loss of lives or loss of property. Remember, we might have floods being caused by climate change, which are going to lead to loss of lives. So and loss of property also. So that's how we can come up with our points on 2.3. So we move on to the other section whereby we are saying, first point, if less food is produced, price will go up and people will need to pay more for their basic food stocks. Because when when less food is produced, it means the supply is going to decrease. So according to the laws of supply, when supply goes down, obviously the price is going to go up. There's going to be a shortage of that product. So basically, that's what was the first point. The second point, if the quality of the plowing blade is affected, people will buy even things they normally produce, which is also a negative that we can see. If plowing is done, if plowing is done on affected land, the yields will be affected, leading to wastages. Then the last point, too much rain will cause floods that will result in loss of lives and property. So these are the points that we have on 2.3. So moving on to the next part, which is going to be our 2.4. So 2.4 is suggest two practical strategies which the citizens can contribute to reduce climate change. So what are the strategies that can be employed to reduce climate change? So you'd see that we have got various points that we can raise there. So you'd see that we are supposed to drive efficiently. Uh, drive efficiently. So this driving efficiently is going to reduce the gas emissions into the air that are going to lead to climate change in the long term. So these are the ways that we can try to raise according to 2.4. So we go to 2.4, you see that we have the first point is drive efficiently, go easy on the gas and brakes, along with using a cruise control and regularly servicing your car to make sure that it's running more efficiently. Check your tires. You have to check your tires. Low tire pressure can negatively affect your gas mileage. So if they have normal pressure, it will reduce fuel consumption. The next point, swap out a few meat-heavy meals for vegetarian or vegan recipes to help significantly reduce environmental impact as meat meals consume a lot of fuel to prepare. So we have got other points that are also correct according to our 2.4, which we can also consider according to what we have here. So basically that's what we have on our question 2. And obviously we need to move on to the next question, which is going to be our question 3. Moving on to your question 3, it reads, read the article below and answer the question that follow. You're given an article, Violence Against Women. So you need to create your article, and then I believe that we've got the first question, which is define unequal power relations. So unequal power relations, obviously, we are having a distribution of power that is not even. For example, we have got an oppression of women, maybe at workplaces, that is going to lead to that unequal, that is uneven distribution of power that we have. So we've got a brief description of unequal power relations, other section whereby saying unequal power relations manifest themselves in situations where women's rights are violated because of the perceived power of men over women in any relationship, and it may result in domestic violence, rape, and even incest. So this is what we have in terms of unequal power relations. Then move on to the next part, which is now 3.2. Explain 3 reasons why some women do not report incidents of domestic violence. So the reason why they do not report is that most women are independent on are dependent on men for their livelihood. If they report such incidents, they risk losing their quality of life. So that's one of the main reasons. And also, most women are scared to report because of family pressure. So some of the points that we have, and also some do not report such incidents for the fear of embarrassment. So yeah, these are the points that we have. Of course, we've got another point that we can also consider. So moving on to the next part of our question. We have 3.3, which is discuss how unequal power relations may lead to rape or incest or incest. So you'd see that the unequal power relations state can also lead to anomalies in terms of rape or incest because some men are breadwinners and the poor women are at the receiving end of that unfortunate situation that may give men a leverage to do as they are pleased with women with the eventual effect that some are raped. So basically, due to the fact that men are a little bit above women in terms of how in terms of their income, that can give the men the leverage so that they can abuse the women through raping. So that's the scenario that we have in terms of how unequal power relations may lead to a rape or incest. Of course, we have that also, other section whereby we are saying many men have an opinion that they own women because of their positions in families. Men may believe that marrying a woman takes away her dignity and a sense of being a humanness, resulting in forced sex. So those are some of the issues. And then some men are breadwinners, which makes them have the power to abuse the women through rape. And also, we can also consider some men care for their stepdaughters. They would do all sorts of favors that could expose the girl child to all sorts of abuse, including rape. So we have other points also that we can consider also correct according to 3.3. Then we'll move on to the next question, which is 3.4. Critically discuss the role of certain cultural practices and beliefs in the promotion of unequal power relations. So a discussion on the role of certain cultural practices and beliefs in the promotion of unequal power and relations. So, what are other cultural practices that lead or that facilitate the issue of unequal power relations? So, that is what we have on that question. So, you would see that some cultural practices give way for those unequal distribution of power. For example, the belief that women are submissive to men in certain cultures. In certain cultures, women have to be submissive to men. So that gives the men opportunity to abuse the women. So that's the case that we have in terms of 3.4. Of course, the question requires us to raise 2 points, so we can see according to what we have, answer section. So in that sense, we are saying first point saying most men are lobola, pay lobola. So some believe it can give them ownership rights. So that can be also another way. And then also kids from families where male Calvinism uh, is practiced, get socialized, and would do the same to their obviously that's how it can lead to the issue of an equal power relation. So in that case, we have that also as a point that we can raise, and we have got other points also that we can consider. For example, uh, if a woman refuses to abide by the traditional norms and standards, she may be caused to pay for damages, and that makes them susceptible to rape. So we have that point again is a point that we can also raise. So we have got other points that we can also consider correct according to our answer section. And this becomes the last question that we have uh, on our question 3. So we can try to move on to the next question that we have. Well, moving on to our question 4, it reads, read the extract below and answer the question that follow. So we've got an extract that you need to go through that we have here of environmental degradation and not only degradation of nature. So we need to go through the extract that we have. So the believe that it reads the right paragraphs on the impact of degradation on society and the environment. Use the following questions as your guidelines. So define the concept environmental hazard. So you would see that the description that we have in environmental hazard is that it is a substance or state or event that may threaten the natural environment or human health. So basically, it's a type of hazard resulting from chemical, biological, or physical agents, either for ongoing or previous human activity, or the hazard may be a property present in the natural environment. So this is what we have in terms of definition of the concept environmental hazard. Then second question is discuss the causes of the three main types of pollution. So uh, what are the what are the three types of pollution that we have? Remember, we've got air pollution, we've got land pollution, we can also have uh, water pollution. So let's see, according to what we have in terms of other section, we've got land pollution as the first one. Pollution is caused by people producing excessive waste, which is dumped anywhere. And also unsustainable farming practices also can lead to that. Use of herbicides and pesticides, that is what we have on land pollution. And then air pollution, it is caused by toxic waste released to the atmosphere, or also in terms of vehicles releasing carbon monoxide. And then our water pollution, this is obviously pollution in the water, and this is caused by chemicals, algae, and by living organisms, usually from feces, such as viruses, bacteria, fungi, which causes sicknesses. So this is what we have in terms of the types of pollution. Then you go to the next part, which is saying discuss dumping is increasingly becoming a serious problem in South Africa. Critically evaluate at least three factors that lead to this problem. Remember, dumping, we've got cheap products that are coming from foreign nations and that are being sold uh, in the local country with subsidized prices or with low prices. But obviously, these are goods, they may not be suitable for human consumption. So the question needs us to critically evaluate at least three factors that lead to this problem. What are the factors that lead to dumping? So you'd see that on the first point, uh, we have the issue of dumping, that is throwing of papers. So you see that most South Africans do not care about the health of the environment as they dump waste anywhere. So this is what we have on the first point. And then the second point, inefficiencies of local municipalities. And also we have got industrialization as another factor that leads to this problem of dumping, whereby we have waste are being just disposed everywhere. So this is what we have for that part. So we have got explanations in on how dumping through throwing of papers can spoil the environment. So on the point that we have, most South Africans do not care about the health of the environment as they dump waste anywhere. So we have got also other inefficiencies of local municipalities. Municipalities seem lacking on skills to do proper waste management in their area of jurisdiction. Then in terms of industrialization, companies produce and dump waste anywhere. So this is the case that we have in terms of the part of dumping. Then moving on to the next question, which reads, suggest strategies that local municipalities could use to control dumping in the community areas. So what are the strategies that local municipalities could use to control dumping is what we have on that part. So you see that these are the strategies that we have. Make enforceable bylaws on dumping, which can be implemented easily. This will help to control dumping at municipality level and also apprehend and prosecute perpetrators. Those who are engaging in dumping can also be prosecuted. That can be an effective way. Run a campaign on environmental health. This will educate people and also provide adequate refuse removal services like plastic bags so that people can feel and the trucks will come and collect on certain day. So basically, this is what we have on strategies that local municipalities could use to control dumping, and this is the last question that we have in terms of our question 4. So on question 5, I read the article below and answer the question that follows. So we've got an article that we are given of the odds could be defined. So you need to go through everything, and then I believe that it is the right paragraphs on the research the requirements for admission to additional and higher educational courses. Use the following information as your guidelines. What is NSFAS? So on the first part, it requires us to explain what is NSFAS. So so you would see that NSFAS basically is National Student Financial Aid Scheme, National Student Financial Aid Scheme. It is a government study loan for students who come from poor families who are willing to pursue their studies at institution of higher learning. So basically, that's NSFAS. So we have also that in our answer section, as we have the explanation of NSFAS. So this is the expansion that we have in terms of NSFAS, whereby it's National Student Financial Aid Scheme. So basically, that's what we have. Then we move on to the next part of our question, which is discuss three characteristics that are made before to succeed. So obviously, the characteristics we are going to deduce them from the article that we are having here. So we are going to say that according to the article, she shows a persistence and perseverance is the first one. And despite the challenges she faces, she was motivated to succeed, and both of their goals were realistic and achievable. She worked hard to overcome the challenges. So some of the points that we can include, we have got other points that are also correct. So moving on to the next part, which is uh, number 3, assess what made before qualify for financial aid from NSFAS. So this is also going to be deduced from the article that we have. So we are going to say that from the article, what made before qualify for financial aid from NSFAS is that she comes from a poor family, and the family's financial position is one determining criterion for qualification. Then good performance in the COF makes one to be recommended for financial aid as NSFAS. NSFAS requires a proven record of performance at the COF and onward. And also she performed well with quality results, but did not have money for further study. So these are some of the points that you can include on that. Then in terms of the next question that we have, I recommend other two possible higher education institutions funding options which we could consider for tertiary funding, excluding NSFAS. So what are other options that can be utilized by before instead of NSFAS? So that's the question that we have. So you would see that we have that also in the other section whereby we are saying MUFO could consider bursaries, that is funding for students who passes their courses very well and they do not have to pay it back, but might have to work for the funder for a certain period. So it might be bursaries or study loans or also scholarships. So these are some of the options that can be considered by MUFO. So this is what we have in terms of our question 5.